Hello, welcome to this episode. Um, Today, like we said in the last episode, we'll be starting off with how to consume JSON payload, and that's what we are going to do. So we are going to create a new project. The projects we are going to use across the series, where we'll actually create new configuration files. So I'm going to start right away. I'm going to go to new um, file, a new project, a new Mo project. So remember, the name of our organization is called We Post. So I'm going to do that right away. Basically, you can leave every other thing as default. I'm just starting it on my local host. So I click on finish on my system. Finish. So basically, what I like to do, because most times when this happens, it creates a file with it creates a configuration. So this is a configuration file. It creates a configuration file with the name of the project. So basically, for subsequent configuration files, you can create multiple. So I try to use this one as a more central process. So because this is going to be a web service which is going to be able to to send data into the into Mule. So I'm using this as my central service. So I'm trying to keep everything simple. So we are just going to start from here. We are going to see how to configure set this up to be able to send a JSON payload from our web applications, be it in Postman, be it in Chrome, be it in any application you have developed in Java, JavaScript, or the rest, Node. We'll see how to do that in here. So basically, what do we need for this? What are the tools I'm using for this particular session? I'm just going to be using the Anypoint Studio. I'm going to be using Postman for testing. Then also, to make my notes, I just use Sublime. So you can use your notepad or anything, but just to make notes or to like write codes elsewhere to make it pretty, I'm going to be using Sublime. So let's get right away into the developments. So the first thing I want to do is to put in a listener. So like this is your palette. You always have to drag things from your palette onto your canvas. So there are quite a lot of things, and one other things we'll see is like how to other would explore other functionalities, other source and processes during the course. So I'm going to just drag a listener because I want to listen for and we want to listen for an HTTP, which is going to be a JSON payload, which is we're going to be able to send the necessary. So based on this, I'm going to configure my listener. What I'm doing here is creating a new configuration. I'm going to just say this as HTTP. I like to do this name seems perfect to me, but I can just go a step further and just do incoming. So I'm going to use the default port as 8081. But you can if you're in a real scenario, you have to discuss with your network administrators which ports they want it to run on. But because some applications already run on port 8081, and it might run on a port 8081 on your environment. But for me, I don't have any application on this port, so I'm using port 8081. And what is the base part? Base part is basically what is so if we are going to have a URL like this. So basically http slash slash localhost, that's the domain name. That is the domain name. Then we put a colon 8081. 8081 is the port name. Is the port number. So every application has different ports. So when we see something like for you when you're communicating with an SQL database, most times it's always on port 3306. Also, when you're communicating on to an FTP server, it's port 21. Also, when you're communicating to an SFTP server by default, it's 22. These things they change from time to time, but like there's a default that's known across industries. But feel free to explore, feel free to change if you understand the network configuration of your landscape. Feel free to try, but I'm leaving it simple. So basically, I was trying to talk about what is the base part. The base part is what is the first URL that we hit when we are trying to call the server. So basically, because we are currently working for an organization called repost, that's what we are going to be having here. So basically, we have the domain name, the port, then we have the base part. Then later we'll have what we call the sub parts, which like I'm explained in the Hello World tutorial. So basically, it's after this the we post parts, the base part. What other parts do we want to add so that we can specify that is exactly this service that we want? So the idea is you can have a base part that is shared across multiple APIs, multiple endpoints. So as we are going to see throughout this series, we'll be using WePost. We'll be using WePost for as the base part throughout. So when we access WePost, we still have a lot of other services available. A lot of other services available. A lot of other endpoints. That is the idea of the the base part. So basically, what is the first one we want to do? We want to be able to do a JSON payload. So we just create this send JSON. This is the first one. So our base part is going to be called we underscore post. And yeah, we are done. You can always test the connection, but I'll just do okay. And what is the base part here? We call it send JSON. So basically, I'm using a very simple name so that in case later on I can actually on demand I can actually send across these files to you. You can actually look into them and explore them further. So it helps you understand, helps ask the right question, and also you see like the naming conventions that we use on projects. That makes it simple for you to adapt. Yeah. So basically, the next thing is we want to be able to for now we are just trying to understand how what is in this payload. So I'm just going to drag a logger. A logger is simply like your in PHP is your echo statement. In JavaScript is your system.out.print line. So it's just console log. So in JavaScript, as you have in JavaScript, console.log. So that's what we are trying to do. So basically, what are we doing here is we are just taking this a step further and saying payload information received and would now say received. And what do we want to see? So first of all, I'm going to show you what I just need to do an example of what we want to send to the what we want to send to the system. So basically, like I said, we are trying to send a JSON file. So basically, what we will be sending is if so like if you remember the big picture, we are working for a postal services. So basically, for every new transaction, we want to send the from location, the to location, the amount, the name of the customer, and the name of the customer's address, the customer that is actually sending it, because we have another system that actually stores where the customer where we are we have another system that actually stores the address where it's being sent to. So for this reason, we are just taking only the customer's present address. So because like in a webs in a on your API, you can actually your API endpoints in JavaScript in that is being called on your web browser. You can actually call different endpoints, but for this we are just trying to take only a part of it. So we just want to be able to see, okay, what the customer that sent it, what are his informations. So basically, that's what we are just trying to see in this one. So basically, we want to collect the customer name. Yes. Tab. Okay, and for this we are going to use an example of a name example Kelvin. No, let's use a business name. Let's use a business name. We'll call it something similar to a very known name. Mm, okay, that's the customer's name. What is the address? So I always enclose it in double quotes. So the address is a fictional address also, which is 123 um Washington Washington Avenue. Okay. Then also, how much did the customer pay? That's what's called the amount. So basically, this was a simple service. He paid $10. The next thing is the location where he sent it from, which state he sent it from, and the state it's going to. So assuming the customer was in New York, from let's go state. So I'm just going to put New York. And the last part is where he sent it to. As let us assume he sent it to California or Texas. Okay, so basically this is the payload we are going to be sending to the server. The customer is Tusla. We have an address, we have an amount, we have the from and the to location. Basically, this is what we want to send. So we are going to be sending this either with from an application that either runs on a web browser, Chrome, Internet Explorer, Mozilla, or the rest. Or for this situation, we are just using Postman. So we're just going to get right ahead. So basically, what we want to see is want to say, okay, when we call this service, we want to say, okay, information received for customer. So we want to just output the name of the customer simply. That's what we are just trying to do. Later on, we'll be going into is to be able to understand how to access the individual elements of the payload. So basically, I told you in Anypoint Studio we have what we call the data weave language and the Mule expression language. So basically, want to be able to express what is data in any way, you can use what we call the payload. So basically, we are sending a JSON payload. Just understand we did not define this variable anyway. It's defined automatically when it comes into the listener or when it's come via other means. So basically, what we want to do here, we want to say, okay, this we have gotten this information for a particular customer, and what we want to do to access that variable, what we do is we put an hashtag. So an hashtag gives you access to various elements. So later on we'll be seeing about attributes, message, payloads, and variables. Var is for variables. You can define your variables, and also once you call your variables, you use the variable, the hash, then the variables. So but we are exploring payloads. So we do payloads. So what do we want to be able to see here? We want to be able to see the field name. I remember our field name, we called it customer name. So I'm just going to copy this and put here. So basically, our endpoint is ready. So basically, what are we doing? We are sending an information from from Postman, and we just want to see if that information comes in here. And from that place, we'll now actually develop this particular flow further. We'll develop this flow further on how to transform it, how to do mapping, how to do complex functions. Then also we'll be also looking at how to save this into the database. So because the reason why I like this tool, it makes things pretty simple. You don't need to that's the idea. You little because beforehand, coming from like developing over the years, you have to do a lot of configuration to set up a simple API like this. But with this, we just have it right an API immediately in less than few minutes. So basically, I'm just going to save this, and I'm going to run this. So when I right click on anywhere on on the canvas, it shows me allow run project. So I'm going to just run project. It takes like about a minute or two to build and to it builds the project and initialize the project. Then we'll be able to test it using the Postman. So I'll just go and prep my Postman a little bit. Basically, I'm creating a new instance. There's something we have not done in the molds in the Anypoint Studio. So whenever I create a listener, by default it's always a get listener. So because we want to be posting data, we have to convert this into we have to convert this into to accept post request by default. So basically, when you click on this listener, you come to advanced and you just type post here because by default it's get. So type post. So this does it, and you save again. So once again, you don't need to it builds itself and it deploys itself. So now here we try to set a post call. So if you remember, we are the one we designed this together, this API endpoint. So basically, you can give this endpoint to any developer, and you're working across different applications. Your job is done. Just share this API to the next developer, to the guy developing on Java, on Node, Python. You'll be able to consume this API appropriately. So I do this. I put here. So I come to my body. I'm transferring the message using my body. What do I want to do? I'm just going to be passing this data. So basically, for this scenario, we are not expecting any response. So I'm just going to do. I like sending my amount as sometimes depending on the requirements, the amount can be a string, the amount can be a number. So I'm just sending it as a number. So let's see. I'm going to send it. Everything seems okay here. So let's send it, and if you can see if you got the message. So I send this. So what happened? No, I think there's an error. So I think it's good because we see how to troubleshoot this together. We see how to troubleshoot together. Payload. Basically, that's what we want to correct. So we have. So with this, you can actually set the parameter to JSON, HTML, XML, JavaScript, or text. But for this scenario, we're sending a JSON. So I'll just resend this. And let's see if we got it. Information received for customer to Slack. So basically, our API is okay, and this brings us to the end of the first the end of this episode, where you have seen how to be able to consume JSON payload. So the next one will be actually exploring how to consume XML payload. So because we understand the steps now, that one will be actually a little bit quicker. We'll just convert. I'll show you how to convert quickly from a JSON payload to an XML payload. So we use data similar to this, and after that, we would go right away into connecting to the database. Okay, thanks for this episode.